Now, as pupils are preparing to go back to school, some parents are already stressing about the cost of starting the new school year, which includes stationery and uniforms. Some schools still force parents to buy uniforms from specific suppliers, which are usually more expensive than other retailers. We have on our panel discussion today Karabo Motaung-Mohlala from the Competition Commission and the General Secretary of the National Association of School Governing Bodies, Mr. Matakanye. Very good afternoon to you both. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon.
Afternoon, Audrey, and your viewers.
Right.
And Karabo over there.
Yes, Karabo is joining us as well. I'll start with you, Mr. Matakanye. Parents are complaining that...
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Karabo. Parents are complaining that they're getting unreasonable requirements on their back-to-school lists that they cannot explain. They're asking if there's some kind of regulation that happens when it comes to these lists. Of course, different schools have different requirements when it comes to back-to-school requirements. But is there an oversight when it comes to these lists that actually justifies all the items that are included on there?
Afternoon once again. It is not really justified because it depends which parents are complaining. If are from private schools, probably we can't agree that it is justified. Probably if then they are from quintile 1, quintile 2, we would say no. Probably then parents are adding to that. But generally, whether quintile 4, quintile 5, private schools or not, then the standard is one. The standard is one. Then parents should not be treated unfairly. We are saying books are provided by the state in some of those different schools, the quintiles, different quintiles, quintile 1, quintile 2, quintile 3. Then those are no fee paying schools. Therefore, then the department will pay, then they will order books. So the same applies to the uniform. Uniform should be affordable to parents, but and they should not be told where to buy the uniform. The parents must buy the uniform where they can afford. But if then they are told where to buy the uniform, then they must inform us. They must inform National Association of School Governing Bodies. Then we'll talk to Karabo so that we investigate those schools. Why do they do that? Because Competition Commission does not really agree with those people, the monopolies, because we are from the history of monopolies, where monopoly will always tell parents where to buy, even if the parent cannot afford. They would always tell the parents where to buy. And it's very much unacceptable. It is not acceptable. Then parents must buy where they will be afford. And if then they are told where to buy, then quickly they must report that matter to us. Then we'll investigate that matter then through the help of the Competition Commission.
Yeah. So we'll get Karabo to join in the conversation. Just very quickly, Mr. Matakanye, I'll ask you to please remove a part of your finger. It's blocking your camera there. We're only seeing half of your face. Oh, there we go. That is much better. Karabo, so the issue of having exclusive retailers selling uniforms, what does the Competition Commission say about that? Because parents are complaining that not only is it exclusive and difficult to find, it's also way more expensive than other shops where they would ordinarily find the same uniform, but I suppose there's specifics that are only found at exclusive retailers.
Good afternoon, Audrey, and good afternoon to your viewers, to Ntate Matakanye as well. Thank you very much for having me. Indeed, Audrey, I think as the Competition Commission, we've been very clear to say that schools need to ensure that their uniform items are as generic as possible, and having more items in the uniform line to be more generic means that parents can get this uniform from more general retailers, right? Of course, we are still seeing and receiving complaints that parents are having to buy school uniform from only one supplier. And we have been engaging with schools. We still continue to engage with schools for them to try and make sure that, their school uniform is available from multiple suppliers. Of course, Audrey, you would appreciate that, in some schools, particularly the smaller schools, in the smaller communities, it's difficult and maybe not possible and not efficient for the school to have more than one supplier. I think what is more important for us as the Competition Commission is how the supplier is appointed.
Karabo, are you still with us?
Having followed a competitive bidding process. And through that process, we are expecting that quality of the uniform, the pricing of the uniform will then reduce through that competitive bidding process. So yes, we are still receiving some of those complaints. Ntate Matakanye is quite correct, but you know what, we are saying that as long as the appointment of the supplier has gone through a competitive process, and they need to ensure that the contract or the agreement between the school and the supplier is no longer than 5 years. So every 5 years, we expect that a school will issue out a tender, and that suppliers, all potential suppliers, will have a fair process and an opportunity to come and present to the school what it is that they have, and potentially bring better prices as well.
Mr. Matakanye, please come into this conversation, because Karabo is saying as long as a supplier is an approved supplier and they have a contract that's no more than 5 years, then this is quite permissible. Is there a way that you can cap the expenses or the costs for parents that are having to make do with this situation that they really don't have any control over?
Look, then when we contract these people, then we shall have gone through the discussions with parents, with the seller as well, and agree that this community will be able to afford that. And it is not more than 5 years. It could be 3 years, because the term of office of school governing body is 3 years. Then it is going to be reviewed after 3 years. Hence, I'm talking about the monopolies, where then school governing body has control over that. 3 years when they leave, then the incoming school governing body must review the contract, whether they are happy with the contract or they are not happy with the contract, and also parents must still be allowed, even if they have that contract, but parents must always be allowed to buy where they can afford. If they cannot afford at that school level, so they will not be forced that they must buy from that contract. If then they can't, then they must buy where they are able to afford to buy.
Yeah, but then the problem is they're not finding the specifics for a uniform in any other retailers outside of those exclusive ones that seem to have a contract with the different schools. And not only that, but they're also quite exorbitantly priced.
That's the problem. One is that uniform should be generic. So generic meaning that now you can buy it anywhere. I mean, if you talk of a black trouser or a black skirt or a white shirt or a grey trouser or what trouser, you can get it anywhere. You understand? Then it means, therefore, then the parents, because if they are still parents who are complaining, it means they cannot afford those contractors that are contracted by the schools. So we are saying that parent should not be forced to buy from the school as long as the uniform is generic and is gender specific, is gender neutral, then there's no problem. Then that parent will be able to go and buy the uniform where, if it is generic. So if it is complicated, well, then we have to go into the school and find out really and truly why are they complicating the question of the uniform, because these parents are not having money to buy from the school.
Yeah. What kind of complaints are you receiving as the Competition Commission, Karabo? And just exactly how many are they? What is the scope of the kind of complaints that you're receiving, and how are they resolved?
Please repeat that. Sorry, I got cut.
I was saying, what kind of complaints are you receiving, and what is the scope of the kind of complaints that you're receiving? Are you getting quite a number of them? And as the Competition Commission, how do you then resolve those conflicts?
So we are still receiving quite a number of complaints. And I think, like I said, when you look at the large number of the complaints, you'll find that it is really around the school having only one supplier, right? And like I said, you know what, we would have engaged the school to find out, you know, why is it that they only have one supplier? And, you know, we'll go through a process, you know, the way they would explain some of the efficiencies, etc. But like I said, you know what, the idea is that schools need to limit the number of items that they have, one, on their school uniform line. Two, they need to limit the number of items that are school specific or that have a badge or you know. So when we're talking about generic, is to say, if we have to have white shirts, let's have white shirts. You know, let's have blue shirts so that a parent can go and pick up a shirt at a PEP or at any other retailer that at which they can afford, right? So yes, we are still receiving complaints. We are investigating complaints, but really where we are also at the commission in terms of this project really is we are now monitoring schools. We are monitoring compliance of schools to the guidelines. I think the commission has done a lot of work in terms of advocacy work, in terms of enforcement work around school uniform. And so now what we are doing now is to ensure that schools are actually complying. So we are in the process now of monitoring the compliance of schools.
Well, we'll have to leave it there. We've run out of time, but thank you so much for your insights. I hope some parents get some kind of relief or insight into how they can go about perhaps cutting costs or finding other solutions when it comes to back-to-school solutions. Karabo-Mohlala from Competition Commission, Mr. Matakanye as well speaking to us, General Secretary of the National Association of School Governing Bodies.